Pickaxe.
Welcome to the Chance Encounters podcast, where we talk about board games an awful lot, surprisingly. And this week we're going to be doing a bit of a wrap up. We're going to finally crown this season 3's Titan of board games. So if you've been paying attention much, then you might have an idea. But please don't give it away for everybody else who wants to maintain that air of mystery. We're going to be talking about board games that we wanted to play, perhaps, or mentioned on the podcast. We've got a few things going up, and we've got Dicky's corner. I don't really know. He's got a cool mini game.
I've got a thing, you guys.
You've got a thing.
A game within a board
bit.
game podcast.
And obviously it's the three of us. So myself, Richard Scarsbrook, one of the founders of Chance Encounters. I've been doing it for a little while. And we've got our two gurus going on over here. We've got Dicky.
Dicky Jordan, officially only doing the fun bits of Chance Encounters now. Rocking up, doing the bits I want, loving it, having a great time.
Upgraded your role to just all of the fun, none of the faff.
Yeah, essentially.
Just skimming all the sweets and going straight to desserts.
Taste testing.
Yeah. We've also got Russ, who's joining us as well.
Hello, I'm Russell. I've been on the podcast a few times now, so you should know who I am, maybe. And I do all the non-fun bits of Chance Encounters, like ordering. Ugh, who wants to do that? Admin stuff. Ew, gross. No, and plus I do get to do the fun bits as well, which is interacting with all the customers as well, of course.
Nice save. Good save there, yeah. And unfortunately Ben can't make it because he was eaten by an alligator. So if we cry during the podcast, please bear with us.
Or was it a crocodile?
It's a good question.
Depends if we see him in a while or whether we see him later.
That's it, yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll go first into Dicky. Dicky would like what is this game that you've got for us?
So it's essentially a push your luck game. I'm going to ask you to think during this episode of 3 games where the combined BGG Board Game Geek ratings add up to 1,000. If you go over, you are bust. So 1,001. You're out of there. No score. So we want as close to 1,000 as possible. Feel free to play along at home. You've all got BGG. It's a free website. So,
if you haven't clarified enough about what BGG is, it's a website that basically ranks. It's communally ranks.
Yeah,
board
users
games.
ranked it. Users rank each games out of 10, and then it creates an average score, and then there's like a top BGG ranking 1 to 30,000 or something ridiculous.
All of them.
The number one game currently is Brass Birmingham, and obviously the ratings always change; they always fluctuate. But at the minute, the number one is Brass Birmingham. So that is
huge amounts of upgrade.
It is a weird place to start. So what I'm asking you to do is think of 3 games where the totals add up to 1,000. So I will give you the scores as you go. So think of 3 games, but if you end up going real rogue on the first one, you will have a chance to pivot.
It's like how you want to basically just want to go as close to 1,000 as possible, and then
but do you go something that you know is high to begin with, or do you go for something that's a bit more obscure, maybe around the 400.
The problem is, what if you have, like me, very good taste in games, and you don't know anything below the top 100?
Actually, everything I enjoy, everyone loves. I'm actually the cream of the crop when it comes to board games. Is that what's going on?
But just as a hypothetical, what if you were, what if you don't
our
know
own
any
wins,
games?
Russell?
Well, if you knew, you've probably played more than 400 board games, which means you immediately have at least maybe the top 400 of board games. So you just have to pick from those, right?
That's true, but
yeah, and you've got very good taste. You've probably played games that you thought were okay.
Yeah.
Thought were all right.
But they've been forgotten. They don't stay in the memory. I just get rid of them, delete them to make way for more stuff.
Well, you have the duration of this episode to come up with some ideas.
I do like the
Maybe
push your
some
luck
thoughts.
aspect because it is one of my favorite mechanisms in games. So I'm already very excited to try this game later on.
I'm not going to lie, Dicky has introduced me to this game before, and I have already gone out and played this game with friends, like other people as well.
You
You
practiced?
didn't tell me that.
Oh dear, this isn't fair.
It's really good. It's great. It's a great game. It's fine. I will be honest and use games that I don't know the score. To be honest, my memory is pretty terrible in general. So even if I did know the board
Same.
game,
The scores will have fluctuated since you last played this.
exactly. There you go. It's an ever giving game. So please let us know what your scores are in the comments if you play this game yourself, because it can be a solo game.
I think they should, as soon as you think of 3 games, just drop them in the comments and then leave a reply with your score. So like, don't even think about it. Just like first 3 games you can think of, just drop them in the comments and then leave your score so other players can, I don't know, judge you.
Just judge. Wow. Please rate my board game choices.
I like that there might be an arc as well. Maybe you weren't really big
Yeah.
on the first one and had to pivot to like 2 games that you knew were in the top 10.
But enough about this game now.
Indeed.
We have to keep you hanging to listen to the rest of the podcast episode. So we're going to move on to other fun topics, and you'll hear about how well we've done and whether the titan of board games, whoever that may be, is also the titan of Dicky's first board game adventure podcast.
It's a mini game, y'all.
So should we move on to the first one, which is probably games that we wish we could have maybe somehow segued into the podcast this season that it just didn't make sense to bring up. Is there anything that particularly stands out for you guys?
So I have one. I was listening to your episode about playing games in the rain and screaming my suggestion at the podcast app that I currently use. And
I heard you actually. It came through loud and clear.
But yeah, I had a thought in my head, and it was actually a game that I played with Russ a few days earlier, which is Crash Octopus. It
Sounds
is
amazing.
a fantastic little game.
Yes.
So it's a dexterity game. You have a ring in the middle of the table, which is your little ocean. You have your little boat. You have a little flag that you're going to. So instead of flicking pieces with your finger, like we have done in games that we've recommended before, instead you've got a little flag, and you just twist the flag, and that flicks the piece. And you're aiming to get pieces onto your boat. And then there's a little dexterity element where you're going to stack the pieces on the boat and hope they don't fall off. And that all sounds nice and cozy and lovely. And there's a giant bloody octopus in the middle of the table, and it's bright, lurid pink, and it's coming to get you. It's fantastic. So each time a piece of treasure is loaded onto a boat, the round marker moves forward. And each time the round marker moves past a black bead on the round tracker, there is an octopus attack. So you drop the dice on, each player drops the dice on the octopus and tries to like almost shoot it off this octopus dome at other players' boats. And it might hit the boats, it might knock stuff off, that's great. But if it doesn't, it's either going to move the octopus head or an octopus tentacle. So you get these kind of beautiful positions where you've got octopus tentacles surrounding a boat, and is it a defensive position or is it a cage that's stopping you from actually getting any treasure? And then you also get these kind of awfully brilliant moments where the octopus head moves like directly next to your boat, and you are in real trouble at that point. And it's kind of it's a very nice, simple dexterity game that feels incredibly high stakes, which is really nice.
I look at this game and I'm instantly like, oh yeah, Dicky would absolutely introduce me to this game. Like this is wholeheartedly. Who owned this game? Was it you?
It's me, yeah. I own this.
There we
This
go.
is a game
makes
that I
sense.
own, yeah.
Yeah, okay. When you were just like, oh, I played it with Russ, and I was just like, wait, where was the origin? Yeah, this is 100% Dicky game. It looks so fantastic and cute.
Do you know who makes it?
Yeah, so it's Itten. So it's a Japanese company. Things we might have recommended before
Yeti
they've
in the
made.
House.
Yeti in the House. Tokyo Highway is one that many people know.
Is it the one with the cacti people? Is that them?
No, that's a
that's not
different
them.
company. But yeah, so they all of their games kind of have a really nice wooden element, and they're very visual. So I think I've described them before as like coffee table games. They're kind of these games that look like maybe they're art pieces, maybe they're like a commentary on the world, but they're probably just a really good game.
To use another Dicky-ism, this is a yawn game, which is to say, if I saw this on the table of someone in the cafe, I would be like, Bagsy that game after them. Like, I am playing. Can you bring that over here the moment they are done?
It's this beautiful thing of being very visual, and like I think all of the things you said about Riff Raff Russ for like playing in the rain, kind of true of this as well. So yeah, I thought yours was an excellent suggestion for that, but I kind of had this fresh in my mind, and I thought like the dice crashing off the octopus in the rain would be really dramatic. So
it would be. I can imagine that slow-mo shot where you just see those like as someone's gonna have a camera of that one.
It's a game that manages to bypass my natural sort of dislike of dexterity games, because it's quite whimsical. It's really, it feels tactical, even though it's probably less tactical than it feels like, because there was when we played it, there was 3 of us playing it, and there was like a leader, and then they went into last place, and then someone else came in, and right at the last minute somebody won who wasn't in the lead for any of the game, I think.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So it's got quite a kind of a like an interesting
there's an arc, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun, but and also it's quite what they've done with the components being that you only really see the top of the octopus's head as this like pink dome, and then the tentacles sticking up out of the water. It's got a really fantastical, brightly colored visual aspect to it, which is exactly why you said, it's a yawn game, because you do have, it looks, you want to know what's going on there. And even though I'd heard of this game before, I was interested to see it just because it looked so great on the table. It uses the table surface as essentially the sea, which is really good. Were we even playing it on a blue table?
I think we might have been,
Yeah, really good.
Argue though that based on the size of that octopus, I'd probably call it a kraken.
Kraken. Yeah, definitely massive and terrifying.
What is a kraken though? Of not a giant evil octopus.
I did play this with someone the other day, and they said a missed opportunity was had. It should have been called Octopush.
Maybe
Octopush would have been a fantastic name for it as well. Maybe
if they translate it to
yes.
Crashed up. Anyway,
yes,
that's a really good one. Yeah, I would absolutely play that game. That looks fantastic. It looks really cool. It's also going to be like easily you can either a palate cleanser after a heavy game, or just like hey, let's stop talking, guys. Let's get into the social board gaming aspect. I can see that. It looks really cool.
A few weeks ago, since we did the UK Games Expo, when I used up a lot of the games that I kind of sought out there, and I feel like I haven't really had that much opportunity to play games since, but I did manage to spend a few days away in a log cabin with just my dog, and so I took some games that I wanted to play solo, and I never usually play solo games, so I dug through my collection, and the games that I did manage to play, and we actually talked about one of these on a previous episode, the first episode of the season with Paul Grogan, Under Falling Skies, which is a fantastic solo game, dice-based, trying to stop the aliens from crashing down or getting to Earth and sort of doing damage to your base, while trying to sort of like do research points that kind of fill up this track. Played that was great. It's got a mini campaign in it that was really good. And I did bring a couple of big box games that I didn't actually get to play, but I really rate the solo modes on them. One of them is one of my favorite games, which I don't think we've talked about on the podcast before, called Dune Imperium.
Wait, that has a solo game?
It has a solo mode, yeah. The way that works is it adds sort of automated opponents, and they come in the form of a deck of cards. So when you're playing, even at 2 players, they suggest playing with an automated opponent. Man, that's like tongue twister. Where on their turn, you'll reveal a card until you reveal a location that none of the players have been to yet, and placing an agent out there and kind of assigning them maybe a resource as well as an amount of combat that they will contribute to the combat at the end of the round. And I've seen it played with 2 players and a third, and it looks like it works. It's very well done solo mode. And especially if you love a game like that as much as I have, I should explain, because I said we haven't talked about on the podcast in a brief version of how this game is. It is set in obviously the same kind of world as the film. So you'll see likenesses to the film actors in a lot of the cards there, but you're playing the head of a house in the world, so it's like a political kind of aspect to the game. And there's a board, loads of spaces on the board that get you different resources like money or spice or rarest of all water, which would make sense if you've seen the film. And then
it's Dune, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then you're trying to assign your agents, which you have only 2 of. You can get a third, and you assign them to a space with a card. Cards will allow you to send them to certain spaces and have extra abilities assigned to them. And any cards left in your hand, because it is a deck building game, after you've placed all your agents, can contribute to your combat. And there's big rewards to be won for combat, including victory points, which is the way to win the game. So it's a super good worker placement deck building game. So, Lost Runes of Arnak, I might have mentioned that on the podcast before, and that is those 2 mechanics, which are the 2 of the most popular mechanics in board games. Super good. And then the other game that I played, which is new to the podcast, is a game called My City Roll and Build. Now, if you've played My City, which is a really nice legacy game, meaning you play through the campaign, you will add things to your board. It's a tile laying game, so ultimately you're trying to fill up your board, your sort of like map as much as possible, which is just like a square kind of grid. You're incentivized to place certain tiles next to other tiles or tiles next to features, because that's how you'll score points. And you're trying to fill it up as much as possible because you lose points for any empty spaces on your board. Well, this is the roll and write edition of the game. So all you need is a campaign. It comes with a big wad of sheets. You can play through the campaign, or you can just play the same chapters over and over again. But each chapter adds new rules and new ways to score points, and sometimes new ways to lose points. And you roll a dice. There's a really clever mechanism in this game where you put the dice together. There's a little half circle on each side of the dice, and you join them together to create a polyomino style shape, like a Tetris-y style shape. And that is what you've got to place on your board, and you've got to build next to where you've built before. But it's really good. It takes that game, My City, and it condenses it down into like a 10-15 minute game. But it's really good, and I had a good time playing that through the campaign just on my own. So yeah, those are the only games really that I've played. But
well, that sounds like loads.
Sorry, I've done it again, haven't I? I always do this. But anyway, it's just the only games that I played. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna mention them, and yeah, all of them really really solid games. So definitely check them out.
Nice. I think. How about you, Rich?
Well, just one point on Dune Imperium is that it won the Spiel. Did it win, or was it just nominated for the Spiel de Jahres?
Do you know what? I don't know. That was a spoiler alert. Like the few days after that, they announced it. I think Dorfromantik won the main prize, and I don't know which one they won the Kennerspiel, but it was definitely mentioned.
So these are like the only awards that most people in the board game, I'd say, care about. That's a bit harsh, but it's a fairly big prize within the board game sphere. It's once a year. They will nominate some board games, and they tend to be well deserved. Dune Imperium, for me, I mean, the way you've explained it, it has 2 of the most favorited mechanics. I am struggling to love it. I love Dune. I love the mechanics in theory, but I find like worker placement, you have like 2 people or something like that, and then it's so light on that mechanic, and it's sort of light on the deck building, that it feels like it's trying to do too much. It's very shallow. So I personally kind of bounce back slightly off of it.
Interesting. I think most worker placement games that have come before, they have overdone it on the worker placement aspect of it, because you ultimately have plentiful choice with a lot of workers. I'm thinking of games like Stone Age and gosh, how is it when you need to think of an example, you can never think of the examples that fit your cause?
Carcassonne is a meeple place, like.
I don't think that's a worker placement. I think, again, shouldn't get bogged down into like what kind of details.
Actually,
they actually did change on Board Game Geek website. They changed the categorization of a lot of mechanisms recently. So some terms that we use and have come to use and know very well now actually don't have a category assigned to them on Board Game Geek, because they've revamped it. And they used Jeff Engelstein, I believe, who is quite a known game designer and game researcher in the board gaming industry, to help recategorize all of these terms we use so that they make more sense. Because I think what he said, or he kind of hinted at, is that a lot of the terms that we used to use before made sense in our hearts, but they didn't make sense to in our heads. Like, they don't actually do the things that they say on them. So we might be using worker placement, but actually that might not be a real category that exists on that website now. And they did it from a good place, because it has to make sense, right? The board game community is growing. We want to make sure that when we're introducing people into this hobby and we're throwing terms at them, that they have to make a logical sense. Yeah. And I do appreciate that they did that. And it will be hard to get people to stop using those old terms. I'm still going to say worker placement, even if it's not a legit strategy. But the reason I mentioned all that is because when you say worker placement to me, there's a certain type of mechanism which I assign to worker placement, where you've got lots of options, you've got a few people, places, and you're vying for the same ones. And so because that's what we've been doing with worker placement so far, it's very interesting that games like Ruins of Arnak and Dune Imperium came along and they said, right, but what if you only had like 2 people? Then those workers, those actions that you're choosing have to really count towards your strategy. There's no like room for like missed or wasted placements. You've got to really make them count. And I think that's one of the things I appreciate at that game, because it just, when it comes down to your turn and you've got to make it count. You can't slip up, otherwise you are going to make a mistake and potentially cost yourself a game. So that's, I think, the reason why I like that they've stripped it back to that very core 2 or 3 workers in those games.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Back to the original point, I mean, I took us off on that tangent. But in terms of games that I have recently played, to be honest, it's actually one that Dicky recently introduced me to, which could be a solo game. I mean, it probably would be a solo game for me. But it's actually the Turing Machine, which if I'm very logical, and when I played it with Dicky, I was just like, this is kind of my jam. Which is so if you're aware, Turing Machine it has references to like the early computers. It was pretty much the founder. He was the founder of computing, and the idea that these are all like kind of like logic. So they'll give you, say, 4 to 6 ways in which it kind of is
verifiers,
a question.
I think they're called. So so they'll give you some information. Yeah.
And the idea is that you're going to be like plugging in some numbers, and then you're going to see what comes out, and then you're going to use the information you're given to make more educated guesses about. And then it's like the first person who can figure out what the special pin code is of the Turing machine. It's pretty much what it ends up looking like. And I think it's a really great game. And not only is there, how many is it, like 20 in the book that you can use, Dicky also informed me that there's like a website where people just make them up. And there's like, there's so many. Like, you could probably play that game for years.
And there's hundreds that have been developed by the game design team as well. So there's 20 in the book, but that is purely for like space's sake. On the website, there's so it's really good.
If you're like me at all and love a little bit of logic, and I think it kind of is a bit of a solo game, although, to be honest, I actually enjoyed playing with Dicky because there's that competition of who gets there first, who can solve it before the other person, and there's
It's an
enough.
efficiency puzzle.
Yeah, and there's like there's an opportunity to have a little bit of luck. Like it matters what numbers you're feeding into the machine, and therefore you can play it with someone who perhaps doesn't quite get it, but equally you can make these logical leaps that kind of maybe give you an edge. So there's also that element of, so it's quite competitive potentially as well. And I really enjoyed it. It clicks with how I
think it kind of vibes with that thing we've said before of like solo games is almost like a crossword kind of vibe or a Sudoku. Like I think it's got the same kind of energy for me as doing a Sudoku. It feels like that weird kind of challenging but calming kind of vibe to it as well. And I do like that it's, we said at the time that it's one of these things where we were racing each other, but it did feel like a logic puzzle you were kind of taking at your own pace as well. Versus some deduction games that I've played that feel like when I'm playing someone that's really good at deduction games, it can feel a bit disparaging that you're like behind the curve. Whereas this, you kind of have that time to work things out in your own time. And if you are behind the curve, you know, you've not felt that until it's revealed, you know, it's that kind of, and it feels a bit more fair enough than something like a deduction game where I'm just not cut out for this kind of thing.
It also has a really cool box which tells you the correct orientation for it.
What was it called again?
Turing machine.
I thought it was called Cluedoku.
That is good. That is better than Octopus. The one thing I do think that we have underplayed for Turing Machine, and we could give a lot more credit, is the main kind of method of how you get the information, which are punch cards. So you choose your 3-number code, and that will give you 3 cards that all have like bits punched out of them. When you lay those on top of each other, they give you only one box that can work. So it gives you one hole in the card, and you lay it over the verifier, which has ticks and crosses all over it, loads of possibilities, and you lay these punch cards over the verifier, and it gives you just one answer. It's either a tick or a cross. And it's the most complicated maths that I can ever think of that they've come up with this game. It genuinely...
There's a very smart algorithm there.
It genuinely feels like magic. It would have been a great option for last week with Shay. You know, this thing that just can't be explained. Like that you go and it's like magic. It's wizardry. I cannot explain to you the maths of it. It blows my mind.
It's like there's a Dobble. You know Dobble, like game where you only have one match on each card. I actually ended up watching a YouTube video that explained how they've done that, and it is using maths. It's incredible. Google it or search for it on YouTube, because it is quite impressive how they've done that. Because you, even in your head, you think, I can kind of see how they've done that, but how? Like it doesn't make sense. So it does feel like magic in the same way. That's
amazing. So I guess we go on to the next element of this. Is there a game that has maybe 10 years, a bit of an older game that you have enjoyed? One that that doesn't get enough time in the spotlight. Something we probably haven't recommended. I mean, last week we did recommend a fair number. I don't think anything was in like the past 10 years that had been published last week. It's just, and to be honest, those are all well deserved. I think I had a look on the BGG ratings. Not that is the only place that you can find whether or not they're good or bad, but they were like all like 7.7s. They were like mid to high 7s. It was really interesting to see. They're all solid, obviously, options. Is there anything that anybody has to think about?
So something I kind of picked up by accident. I did a little secondhand trade of some board games. And just to make shipping cheaper, I popped in a game that I'd never heard of. and just kind of took a bit of a punt on. This person had it, and they said, if you like this, you'll like that. And it's called Tumult Royale, which is not a cheeseburger. But it's a game by the same man who designed Catan, and it was a game that he designed with his son, Klaus and Benjamin Teuber. It's really interesting. It's a little kind of tile laying game with resource gathering, except the resource gathering is real time. You have 20 seconds, pick up tiles from in front of you, and you will you pick up one at a time, decide whether you're going to take it or put it back, and you have 20 seconds to gather these resources. However, you are a royal, and the people, they are angry. So at the start of each turn, you will roll a spinner, and it will tell you how much of each resource the people want for themselves. So it's basically a game about not being too greedy. So if once everyone's taken their stuff, we will reveal what's left. And if there is not enough for the people, you have created a tumult, a rebellion, a revolt, whatever you want to call it. They wanted to call it a tumult, which is just a fun thing to say. I enjoy saying tumult.
Yeah.
But no, it's this kind of, and the whole game is you are gathering resources to build statues of yourself. Whoever's built the most statues of themselves wins. And it's this kind of glorious, royal, self-indulgent, I'm going to take all the things for myself. And then the people can just give you a really healthy fuck you. It's really nice. It's so good. And it's a very simple, what I'd call a gateway game. It's kind of family weight. It's not going to blow any minds for strategy, but it's this really fun kind of almost life lesson of, do the things that are cool. Enjoy yourself. It's great. But leave something for the other people, It's really nice, really straightforward to kind of get on board with and get playing and start playing. And it's just something that's really surprised me. You can pick it up secondhand for about £10, and it's so worth it at that price. Really.
You've sent me down a slight BGG. There's apparently Klaus Teuber. Sorry if I've said that incorrectly. Has like 225 games. I think a lot of them Catan-esque. But there's a lot that Klaus has done beyond Catan that I assumed he was a one and done kind of guy.
We will never see the depths of his back catalogue. He will be known only for one thing.
Yeah,
I think that gave him enough sway though in the industry that he probably had more opportunity to take risks and make new games that other designers may not have, because he made a game that kind of broke into the mainstream and essentially set us on the path of, how many games are being released today because of him. So I think I reckon there's probably a few duds in there because
probably
early on after Catan, he was like, hey, I got this great idea for a game and it was just bad. But people thought, hey, if we stick Klaus Teuber's name on it, hey, it might be the next Catan. And they took a punt on it. But I'm not, I only say that in a sort of jokey way. I have not played many of his games.
Like I hadn't, and it was something that kind of, I played it before I realized who'd made it kind of thing. And then this moment of realization dawned across my face, being like, oh, what? He did other things? But I mean.
He made that one with the football. No, that was the Catan expansion.
Yes, I still have.
That was kind of fun. Was the only thing that I added to the game like a goal? And when you wanted to get a resource or something, you tried to score a goal, and if you got it in, then you won the resource.
It was during the game. You would have matches with other people, so it was like a league that was going on in the background, and you didn't. Although it had a goal and it kind of looked like you were playing football. All that mattered is which color was on top as to whether or not you scored goals. And I think going in, you had maybe an advantage if you had like slightly more rolls, so you could potentially score goals. And and that was kind of it. It just seemed. I genuinely thought it was an April Fool's or just a joke that had gone on way too far.
Wow.
And whoever was like, you know what Catan needs? This wonderful settlement building game with like cities, and we're creating football. We need football in here.
They've got to get football. They've got to get the football fans into the hobby somehow.
They do, yeah.
And there's not enough games based on that. And whether that's because there might be a hit game out there that's football themed that will bring all the football fans in, just like Elizabeth Hargrave did with Birders in Wingspan. So they're just trying to get those football fans in. That's what they're trying to do.
The only game I've ever played that was so bad it was good was a game called Age of Soccer that we bought it in the cafe because I thought, for exactly the same reasons you mentioned, something for the dads. Yeah, let's just get an Age of Soccer.
Or the football loving mums.
I love a bit of football, and I was really hopeful to see that this was going to be the kind of the Championship Manager game that I'd been dreaming of, and it just wasn't. It had that, and you built these incredible teams, and there was a really nice kind of almost deck building kind of element, and you were bidding on players just like you would in real life as a manager. And then you got to actually playing a match, and it was just how many save cards you had in your hand. So you'd play one person play shoot. I'd play a save. They'd play shoot again. I'd save it again. They'd play a shoot. I'd save it again. Beautiful, magical. And then I ran out of save cards and they scored, and they won the game. That was it. It was just the biggest anticlimax that I'd ever seen in my life. But it was so funny because we'd spent like 45 minutes doing this really in-depth game only to come to this kind of rope bridge of luck that just collapsed under our feet. It just fell away. It was that wonderfully funny thing of just being like, oh, it's all been for naught.
There is a game that it reminds me of. I can't say it because it's almost like a spoiler, but there was a game that I played that had a story you're trying to solve. And when it got to the end, it came down to a 50-50 choice based on a cliche from a movie. And you could have lost the scenario completely just because you picked wrong at the end. And even though we got it right, I still left a very sour taste from that game, and it burned me off ever trying any of the other games in that sort of franchise.
Yeah.
It was just so weird. Like, how did that get past the playtesters? Because surely there was, I mean, there is always the chance that there was some other aspect of the game that it didn't quite get or was missed, which would have helped us. But the very fact that we didn't stumble across that, or in the group of us didn't come to that conclusion, we all came to the same idea that, is it really asking us to make a 50-50 choice? And it did. It just felt really bad. So yeah, that is unfortunate.
It's like listening to a song and waiting for the drop, but the drop never came. The drop was never there. It was just 45 minutes of the tempo raising up, and then it just faded out. That was it. It just, I know exactly the feeling that you're talking about, Russ. I've been there. I have experienced the same struggle, my friends.
They do exist. There are bad games out there.
Yeah.
I think I haven't really played many older games myself lately. If I do, I mean, 10 years isn't even that old now.
No, it's like 20.
I'm just trying to think, what games came out in 2013, because that would be really, what were the best games that came out in 2013? Because I'm kind of curious if that does feel like that long ago. Board Games 2000, top 10 board games. So Euphoria by Stonemaier Games came out that day. Apparently,
Pandemic came out.
Sorry?
Pandemic.
Pandemic
Wonders,
came out in 2013.
Forbidden Desert. Resistance. Dominion.
Yeah.
Splendor. This
Pathfinder.
Is this genuinely true? Splendor was 2014, but wow.
Okay. Yeah, but still, it doesn't seem that long ago,
games.
Right?
And I don't think these are games that feel like they've aged. They're not games that feel ancient now. They still feel quite up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I play Splendor quite a lot. They've recently brought out a game called Splendor Duel, which, if you play 2-player only, I would consider picking up. I've been enjoying it with my wife. It takes about half an hour, maybe. Adds a little bit more complexity on. There's a little bit more opportunity to tailor your strategies, or like the way in which you pick up gems now matters, which mean that you can be more competitive, and it. So I rate it quite a lot, but even the base game Splendor, I find myself playing. It seems like an entry level game that you'd grow out of, but actually I've kind of come back to it because it's time wise and like ease of a teach is quite easy. But so yeah, in terms of games, I guess that would be my one. Actually, Splendor is a fantastic game that for me still holds up.
I've been playing it a lot on BGA, Board Game Arena. But yeah, I've been playing it against kind of people from across the world, and it's so swift, but still feels that kind of really nice puzzle. It's I think that's a really good shout.
Like have you got top tips after your few games on Splendor?
I think you look at what the nobles are. So for those who haven't played it, you are a dual dealers. Yeah, you're
merchants. Yeah, I suppose
dual merchants. That you have nobles that require you to have skills in and kind of sculpting. The theme is a bit
I think you're making jewelry.
It's
I think you're making jewelry with the gems that you find, because you see them on the cards. You
find it's a real. As you can see, we're very struggling to explain the theme. It's maybe a little bit tacked on.
Yeah, it's a Euro game that's really trying hard to make the theme work, isn't it?
Like wafer thin at this point. Basically, you go around stealing these gems, and then you trade those gems in for more permanent gems in some fashion, and then those permanent gems attract nobles to you, and maybe you'll also win because the gems that you stole have points associated with them, and so you might win based on just loads of points.
Get 15 points. You've won the game. It's great.
There you go.
Bang.
Is it 20 points in Duel? I think it's 20 points in Duel now.
I think it is more in Duel, yeah. In again, OG Splendor, it's 15.
It's changed up quite a lot in terms of how they distribute points. They're like totally different card systems. There's also 2 additional ways to win in Splendor Duel, which makes sense once you've kind of played the game.
Very good. I rate it. I was just looking up them. There was a game that I have been enjoying that they've done. There's been a few games that have had revamped editions lately of older games, including Ra, which is an auction set collection game. Now I haven't played it in a long time. Sorry, what?
Yeah.
He was going to do a gaga. The fiend.
I don't get that. Maybe.
It was just it was Lady Gaga, and I was singing Ra.
Oh,
this,
Ra.
It's fine. I'll release my debut single.
I completely missed that. I think I can't. God. Okay. No, Ra is. I remember playing that back when it came back. When I first started. Well, I think I actually did end up playing it about 9 years ago for the first time. But it was from. I think it's from '99 or something. It's quite old. And that was a really good game, and they've just done a reprint of that. But then another game that I actually really like that I played recently and really still enjoy is Battle Line. But I think you can only get it now, and the new name, Schotten Totten, which is a great name, by the way. I don't know what it means, but it's just fun to say.
Yeah.
You have opinions?
I miss Battle Line. It's from the dark days before graphic design was even thought of. And it's so lovely and ugly and weird, and I want all of my cards to look like vases. I just do. I mean, we've talked about Battle Line before, but I do think it's fantastic. Perhaps. And I'm a proud Scot, like, admittedly with the emphasis on the ish bit of Scottish, but like, I should love the theming of Shot and Totten. It's Scottish. Lots of people in kilts, but I just find it misses the mark when it comes to that game that I want the kind of old musty fustiness of Battle Line. It's the cozy blanket I never knew I needed.
It's funny though, because sorry, I was going to say the only thing I think is like the game is ultimately just numbers on cards. So the artwork is
It's basically poker.
Yeah, it doesn't help the game at all. You could just play it with, I guess, a deck of cards. But yeah, it's a really solid game. I really like it. That's actually not true. You can't play it with a deck of cards.
Yeah, only 4 suits.
Yeah, I think there's like 6 or 7.
Six suits.
Yeah.
10 cards
suits,
and 6
and
colors.
then like some special
leader cards, I think they're called.
Tactics cards. I think they're in battle line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, but it has a special place for me because it's one of the first games I played or was taught when I was at the cafe. I think Dicky literally showed it to me.
I'm to blame.
It is quaint in terms of its art style, and for me, yeah, like it's hard to get a customer excited about it because it's not showy, but actually I hugely enjoy it as a game.
I think there's definitely like a crowd for it, and if you pick it right, if you know the people, they will play any good
Roman
game.
art that has some
I
good,
don't think
solid...
there are necessary. I think I've said this before, and I do think having appealing art and more modern art in board games is a big reason why I think is very important, and it's a big reason why we have a bigger hobby than we did before. So, but I don't begrudge people who want the old style art. I just think that ultimately, if I play a game and I play a good game, the art is super nice, and I would always probably want to play the more modern looking version of the game, because usually that comes with tweaks from like second editions, and they've tweaked the gameplay, they've finessed it a little bit. But I would always play a good game regardless of the art. I just think that if we're gonna make another version of a game, or we're gonna print a game, we can at least make it look nicer. I think there's a kind of win-win.
I agree with you. I do. I would agree with you. Every game apart from Battleline. I think it does need an update. I do think it does need new art, but I don't think the art from Shot and Totten is good enough to justify it not being Battleline.
I also feel like if a game has been re-implemented, it was probably designed by Reiner Knizia. So Reiner Knizia, if you start looking at board game designers, one of the most prolific designers is this guy called, I'm sorry if again my pronunciation might be well off, but Reiner Knizia I swear he brings out like hundreds in a given year because his mind just like churns out mechanics. He boxes them up and then sends them off to a publisher. And then I think that's kind of like he's like, I'm done. Next board game. And then I'm pretty sure like every 3 days, like his like family must go absolutely mad with like, oh, he's off on another one again. Oh, what are we playing tonight? But like a lot of his stuff. So Battleline's been around since 2000, and then it was re-implemented twice apparently. Once. Oh, it says also. I don't know when it was reprinted because BGG doesn't.
It wasn't that long ago. It was by Yellow, and they'd done Shot and Totten 2, which I haven't actually played.
It intrigues me.
Yeah.
But
they have released a Shot and Totten 2, which I've not played, so it must be doing all right for them to release a sequel to it.
So, after keeping you waiting all that time, if you've been, it's been in on the background, you're like, I've really been waiting for what Dicky's game is. Start paying attention right now. This is it. So Dicky, you've given us like the brief rules of this.
Yes.
How would you like to proceed?
Well, I think we should go through one person doing their 3 games, set a benchmark,
Yeah.
So I think a good score. Well, we'll see what a good score could be, but I think above 600, I think you can be reasonably happy with yourself.
Okay.
So, Rich, do you want to start off as our seasoned pro?
Yes, and this is the first. I think it's the first game that I mentioned on this podcast today. As in, like literally today. Was the Turing Machine. This could be like this might not even be in the top 1,000. I guess we'll have to find out. But that's
like
my
pointless.
First one.
You're waiting for that.
You could bail
thing and it goes
immediately from this.
Yeah.
I think that's bold because you don't know where that sits. I'd say I wouldn't even be sure it's in the 1,000.
I would say this is a really good start. You're on 541.
541.
Nice.
Wow. Okay, so that leaves me with 400 and change.
Yeah.
Like 400. So I could go for like two, as if I know the two like top 200 board games. Do we want to do the whole of mine?
We want to do the whole of yours.
Oh no. Okay, so 500. I don't need to be too out there. So let me think of what's a good top
you want a solid 300, 200 kind of, maybe.
I don't. If you ask me to name 300 board, this is what I said to Russ earlier. I was like, "Yeah, you played 300 board games, like like it'll be easy, right?
So easy."
Okay. And I've said I won't use the. What else have I talked about? We
just use all the games that you mentioned on the podcast today.
I kind of want. I think. You know what? I'll go Splendid Duel because it's new enough that I don't think it'll be too high.
Wow.
But I think it's a good game. I'm not sure. Oh gosh, I don't think it's actually top 400. You know what? I've said it. Let's find out where we're at.
He's going.
I feel like you might have pushed it over the edge.
It's a push your luck. What are you going to do if you don't push it?
Okay, that takes your score to 764.
Wow.
764.
You did it.
So what number was that then? Like
223.
Wow.
People like
that was
the game.
Good.
That's a very good start. That's very good too.
Get the one below that, and you've pretty much won that.
So you're looking just under 250.
Just under 250. Do I know a game that's top 250?
I mean, you could play it safe here. You could set a solid benchmark. Go for a game that you know is going to be in the top 100. Set a solid benchmark. That's a good score.
I'm going to go...
How much do you want to risk
with... I think it'll be top 100. I think it might be in the second half of the top 100. I'm going to go Isle of Cats.
That's what I was thinking of.
Local Bristol designer, Frank West. It's a really good... It's a well-loved game.
Wow.
I do think it is top 100, so it's a safe play. If I'm trying to beat Russ, I'm going to try and play smart here.
Okay. Your total score, 881.
Oh!
Isle of Cats gave you 117.
Wow.
That's a very good score. A very good score.
I was thinking of Isle of
best
Cats.
score I've ever seen you make in person.
It is. I think it's the only one I've ever done that's less than 1,000 after 3.
So Russ, you've seen how in theory it's done. Are you feeling confident? Are you feeling more confident or less confident after that?
I don't
It's
know.
doable. It's definitely doable.
I don't know any games that sit like on the bottom of the 1,000 rankings. So I'm trying to think of games that are like I've thought, oh, they're all right. I mean, maybe I'll play them again, but I don't know. What's a game that I like that not many other people like? I think that's what I've got to go.
I think almost party games as well. Like BGG has a pretty... I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah, but is that going to be like too far? Because actually, I think Codenames is in the top 100. And I think Decrypto's in the top 200.
I think that's a very specific type of party game, though. I agree with you. I think those ones are up there, but those kind of more thinky party games.
What do they think of Captain Sonar? Is that even a top 1,000 game?
I think that's up in top 200, I think. I've seen that in top 200. Yeah.
Captain Sonar is like an 8-person real-time submarine game, which is... It's like really obscure, but when it came out, it hit like a really interesting... Like it carried a bit of a zeitgeist, I feel like. Like people were like, "Ooh, that's cool, let's play it." At least
I might lose it, but there's a game that we talked about on the UK Games Expo episode, and people seem to really like it, and it is still fairly new. But I don't know. There's another game I like by the same company. I'm just wondering if I should go for that.
Make the leap.
Boldly
you know
go.
I thought of it. Let's just say Ready Set Bet, because I wonder that might be too...
Such a great game.
That might be too new. But I feel like
my
a lot of
ultimate
people
find
liked
at
it.
this UK Games Expo. I think it just meant the thing that I'd been looking forward to.
Yeah.
I know how it played. I just had heard people talk about it with this kind of passion and joy. Do other people feel the same way?
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I don't know. I was thinking maybe I should go the other way and make it more jeopardizing for me by starting with a low number.
Russell,
I've lost, haven't I?
you have set yourself an incredible challenge.
What?
Ready, set, bet puts you in the very nice position of 932.
What?
Will
wow.
you nail this?
Oh my god.
There's a lot of room. You've got 2 goes. You can mess too big, and you can mess this up. You're so close to that 1,000.
It's like, do I want to win or do I want to just beat Rich?
Either way, I think you can do the
Win
same.
the game.
I think stay under 1,000. You've comfortably done both.
Yeah.
So what was it?
932.
Okay.
So you've got 68 to play with. If my maths is not as terrible as it is.
I know loads of games in the top 100, but I don't. They all like kind of. They could be anywhere. I want to say like, damn. I just want to go for an easy win. I don't want to push it too far.
It's called push your luck, Russ. Don't.
Rich is saying
don't
that.
Bail
this is
out
what
right
classic
now.
push your luck
This
game
is
behavior.
going to be
push me.
a leaderboard. So if we do this again, this is going to be the score that people have to
I want to
beat
beat the listeners. So
You're not playing
Yeah.
me, Russ.
Yeah.
You're playing yourself for the best game you can get.
All right, so I'm looking for 932. So I want a 67.
Yeah.
Right?
68 is fine. 1,000 is fine.
Oh God. Okay. Top
But
50
1,001, you're done.
I really want to get a game that's like around 50, and I know Wingspan's got to be up there, isn't it? But I don't know if I want to use that one.
Okay.
I mean, you
I wanna
probably
say-
know.
Oh, couple of backspaces there. Wow, I was up to wings.
Oh wow.
I don't know. Maybe I should. It's got to be up there though.
I'm sorry, Russ. I'm gonna have to press you.
I'm going to say
Quick game's a
Wingspan.
good game.
Whatever.
Wingspan.
I've got to say that's
Okay.
got to be like top 50 because it's loved by gamers.
2019. Has its star fallen?
Oh.
I could have just said Brass Birmingham and Gloomhaven and probably I think chess. I just know loads of games in there. But
Okay. Wingspan is the 25th most favorite game on Board Game Geek.
Whew, okay, I'm
That
still
takes
in there.
you to a brand new score of 957.
Okay.
So you got
Top 30.
You've got
3
43
games.
to play.
Yeah, it's 43.
I don't want to drag this out, but I just want to end it because I'm stressed out. This is
I mean,
still
you
a
know-
really good score.
You know what number 1 is.
Yeah.
I told you earlier in the episode.
Yeah, I'm
That
gonna
gives
say.
a benchmark.
I'm gonna say.
Why don't you go Codenames? You said that was a pretty high up there one.
I think that's like 40 something or 30 something.
if it's 43, you're bang on the
no,
money.
I'm not. I would kick myself if it was that.
You're
though.
trying to lead him astray, and I like it.
What, me?
I think
I
I
would
will
never
go
do such.
for just a nice, safe top 10 game, Pandemic Legacy.
Pandemic
It's
Legacy.
like third, I think. What isn't it?
Season 1, Season 2, or Season 0?
Season 1.
Oh.
Okay. So, your final score. The benchmark for our viewers to beat.
Yeah.
959. You picked the second most favorite game. The second ranked game on BGG is Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Yeah, I just knew I didn't want to risk it.
No, I think a good shout. So, can you beat 959? Can you beat? Let us know
Yeah.
what you picked, what order
Yeah.
you picked them in,
Yeah.
and how much you were terrified when you got 932.
Gosh.
So, this is a nice game, but I think, Rich, if you agree, it's time to find out who the real winner is. Sorry, R's and W's are hard. Real winner.
Yeah.
Tell us who won the real game.
Let me just enter my calculator and go into the mathematics behind the season winner of this. I mean, if you've been paying attention, what you might have realized is this season I have been incredibly lucky. I don't know I mean, may have been the bribes that I was giving.
It wasn't luck. It was good choices.
It may have
Great
been that
choices.
time I told you to recommend So Clover.
It could well have been. Oh yeah, that was actually the time, wasn't it? That's how I beat you, was using your own recommendation. So if you notice, I should probably pull up the exact scores, but fundamentally we've done 7 episodes with guests, of which I have taken 5 of those.
Wow.
And therefore I get to crown myself Titan of board games for season 3.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you. And I mean, we've had our previous season 1 winner, Dicky, obviously. Season 2, who was season 2 winner?
It was a shared guru victory.
Oh, yes.
We had various episodes all over the shop. But yeah,
Back
we
when I used to
we
win.
beat you and Ben.
occasional episode.
Yeah, it was a wild ride this season. Out of nowhere, the dark horse of a host of the podcast actually came in with a few reasonable ones. So I hope it'd be really interesting if you've actually played any of the games as a result of some of the recommendations. That would be really interesting to find out. Things that you maybe liked, maybe you disagreed with our recommendations, or my recommendations that actually, won the podcast. If you've been in any of these situations, these scenarios as well, I'd love to know about it.
Tell us if you've been trying to impress your rich parents by playing games in the rain.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Or if you've been welcomed subterranean races up from the earth and preparing them for negotiations.
Have you been propelled back in time to medieval Europe? Tell us. You may be able to claim. No, you can't. We can't give you any money. That's not how we work.
Yeah. But thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much
Congratulations.
Yeah, well
Rich.
done.
Well deserved.
It was. I agree. Thank you so much for joining us for this season. Thank you for our hosts, our gurus. So thank you, Dicky. Thank you, Russ, for joining us for this. And hopefully we'll see. So season 3 was interesting because we obviously have been doing it a slightly different format. I know if you're watching, then it's probably affected you more than if you've been just listening to us. But we've been introduced to many different people around the world, or people that we would otherwise have been unable to get into the studio. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I think the format has generally worked. Let us again know if you have any particular issues with it. But by this point, I think we've done, the guests this season have been wonderful. And on
Don't
that
forget
note,
to like and subscribe on the whatever you're listening to,
Yep.
whether it's on
Smash
YouTube
that
or
bell button.
on the Spotify or Google Podcasts or whatever, wherever you find your podcast, as Ben would say, and drop us a comment if you'd really like to see us come back for a season 4. We would love to know. And every comment thing helps. Share it with your friends, all that kind of stuff.
I've got more mini games. Just if you want to see those.
Exactly. That's really what I'm going to be doing season 4, is to get to the point where I get to hear what the next Dicky game is going to be. I'm also really annoyed that I had the best score I've ever had, and then Ross comes in and
Blown
just
out the water,
scoops
my
it out.
friend. There is a new benchmark
number
in
one.
town.
Who does that? Who picks the 930th game on their first try? Anyway, enough about that bitterness.
Yeah, you won.
Thank you
won.
so
It's
much.
fine.
You won the whole season. Come on.
Let him have this.
That's true. I currently am the Titan of... I'll tell anybody that listens to me now. It's official. Thank you so much again for listening. It has been a joy to do this. So I will hopefully catch you in season 4 of the Johnson Girls podcast. Bye!
Bye.